Racist cop humiliates and arrest black female police captain of stealing. He is hit with karma next. Welcome to today's gripping tale, where justice collides with prejudice, bravery challenges corruption, and an unexpected destiny unfolds in the heart of a bustling American city. In this story, we follow a decorated, trailblazing African-American female police captain whose stellar reputation makes her a beacon of hope in her community. Yet, a single malicious accusation by a vindictive, racist officer threatens to unravel everything she has worked for. As secrets emerge and past deceptions are unearthed, tensions build in surprising and unpredictable ways. Prepare yourself for dramatic conflicts, hair-raising twists, and jaw-dropping revelations. Brace yourself for a saga that proves no act of hatred goes unpunished. Karma always finds its way. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited about this story, let us know. If you enjoyed the video, press 1. If not, press O. Your feedback really inspires me to gather more uplifting and meaningful stories. They called it the Blue Family. Police officers from precincts far and wide, united by the color of their uniforms, shared a bond that outsiders would never truly comprehend. But for Captain Naomi Carter, the dream of wearing the iconic navy blue uniform came with extra burdens. She was not only a proud New York City Police Department officer, she was a black woman rising through the ranks in an institution that hadn't always welcomed people like her. Still, she worked tirelessly, determined to push the barriers and prove her worth. And she had succeeded until one fateful day when everything came crashing down. Naomi had grown up in the Harlem neighborhood of Manhattan. Her father, a retired FDNY lieutenant, instilled in her the values of loyalty, duty, and service to the community. Her mother, a middle school principal, taught her the importance of perseverance in the face of adversity. From a young age, Naomi had admired the bravery of officers on the streets, responding to calls in their humming Ford Crown Victoria patrol cars, lights blazing through the night. She wanted to be that symbol of protection. Eventually, she joined the academy and excelled, finishing top of her class with accolades for leadership and marksmanship. Years later, she managed to break barriers by becoming captain of the 32nd Precinct. The precinct building on West 135th Street was her second home, a place where she mentored young officers, advocated for better community relations, and maintained the trust of Harlem's citizens. People on the streets knew her by name. She sat down to have coffee with them in mom-and-pop shops, checking on everyone's well-being. Over time, her name became synonymous with fairness and kindness. She was respected not because of her rank alone, but because she truly embodied what the police force should represent. Yet despite the progress, she heard the whispers. Some among the older guard at the precinct doubted she could handle the responsibility. Others believed she had only gotten her position because the NYPD wanted to present a more diverse face to the public. She pushed these murmurs aside, believing her work would speak for itself. Then came her conflict with Officer Jack Farnham, a veteran cop transferred from a Staten Island precinct where controversies seemed to follow him like a persistent shadow. Right from the start, Farnham's attitude was a thorn in her side. He openly belittled fellow officers he deemed soft and harbored a deep-rooted suspicion toward the mostly black and Hispanic community in Harlem. He frequently made offhand comments about how these people bring trouble on themselves, refusing to recognize the reality that every neighborhood had a complex history, that socio-economic conditions often played a significant role in crime rates. Naomi tolerated his grumbling at first, determined to maintain professionalism. After all, as captain, it was her duty to guide officers under her command, even those who harbored biased opinions. But Farnham's resentment of her, someone he considered unqualified, festered into something darker. An otherwise unremarkable Tuesday morning became the day Farnham launched his plan to humiliate his captain. No one, least of all Naomi, saw it coming. It started at a local bodega on Malcolm X Boulevard. Farnham, still in uniform, had rolled up in his patrol car. The night before, the store owner had filed a complaint about shoplifters. Farnham decided to patrol there. In truth, he was searching for an excuse to demonstrate he was cleaning up the streets, that he, unlike others, was truly tough on crime. But that day, Naomi also happened to stop by the same bodega, off-duty, to grab a quick snack before heading into the precinct. She stood by a shelf of freshly restocked chips, wearing a simple grey hoodie and jeans, her NYPD badge tucked away in a discreet side pocket of her plain black purse. She was reading the back of a protein bar when Farnham entered, scanning the aisles like a hawk. His eyes flicked over the few customers browsing inside. Immediately, he seized upon Naomi, not recognizing her in casual wear and certainly not making the connection that this was his precinct captain. He snapped at her. "Hey! You with the hoodie, take your hands out of your pockets where I can see them." Naomi's first reaction was surprise. She looked up, still holding the protein bar, confused as to why Farnham was barking orders. She noticed the tension in his stance. People in the store froze. One of the store's employees, a teen named George, recognized Naomi and instinctively opened his mouth to speak, but Farnham silenced him with a glare. "Officer Farnham, what's going on?" Naomi asked, trying to keep her voice calm. It didn't even occur to her that Farnham didn't recognize her. She was used to wearing her uniform with her name tag. In plain clothes, apparently, she was just another face to him. Farnham smirked as he walked forward, chest puffed. "I'll ask the questions. We got a report of stolen items from this store. Hand over what you took." He eyed her with a sneer. "Don't play dumb." Naomi's spine went rigid. She realized Farnham's attitude was dripping with suspicion and arrogance. Still trying to diffuse the situation, she slowly raised her hands, the protein bar still in one. "Officer Farnham," she repeated, her tone edging closer to an authoritative register. "I'm Captain Carter." He cut her off. "Captain Carter?" he scoffed. "I know, Captain Carter. And you're no captain. Don't pull that nonsense on me. You're trying to use some random name you overheard. Let me guess. You forgot your ID at home?" At that moment, Naomi blinked. She realized Farnham truly didn't recognize her. He stared at her with a disparaging grin, and her attempt at explaining was falling on deaf ears. She tried again, more sternly now. "Officer Farnham, stand down. I command you to stand down immediately," he sneered. "Last chance. Cough up what you've stolen, or I'll have no choice but to bring you in." The store owner called about a black female suspect stealing snacks. "I see a black woman in the aisle with a half-hidden item. Don't push me." The blatant prejudice in his words and the insinuation stung Naomi. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she used her training to stay calm. "I purchased nothing yet," she said quietly, "because I'm still reading the label. If you take a moment to check with the cashier, he'll confirm that no purchase has been made. No theft has been reported at this moment." She gazed toward the bodega owner standing behind the counter, who looked startled and somewhat fearful, as Farnham's reputation was already known around the neighborhood. "Still," the owner stammered, She's not a thief, officer. She comes here all the time. She's Captain Carter." Farnham's eyes flared. He marched forward and seized Naomi by the arm. The hush in the store was deafening. "So you all know each other," he snarled. "That's how this works, huh? Stick together against the cops. Well, you messed with the wrong officer. Hands behind your back." A wave of indignation coursed through Naomi. The fact that Farnham refused to listen even to the store owner was beyond reason, but she knew if she resisted physically, it would only escalate. "Officer Farnham," she said as calmly as possible, "you're making a grave mistake." He responded by yanking her arms behind her, snapping on the cuffs. Naomi could see the fear and shock on the faces of the other customers. The store's security cameras recorded everything, yet Farnham didn't care. He was locked onto his twisted sense of justice. He had identified a culprit and believed he was right. In his mind, the black woman with a protein bar had to be the suspect. She managed to speak as he shoved her toward the exit. "Officer Farnham, you will regret this." Her voice was quietly confident, despite the humiliation roiling inside her. "And you have no idea who you're dealing with." Outside the store, Farnham forced Naomi against the hood of his patrol car. The chill of the metal seeped into her, but her rage kept her from shivering. Passers-by gawked at the scene. Some took out smartphones to record it. Farnham's expression betrayed not a shred of doubt in his decision. He patted her down, rummaging through her purse until he found her NYPD identification and her captain's badge. The moment he realized what he was holding, a flicker of panic crossed his features. Yet instead of apologizing, he doubled down, as if determined to make her pay for his embarrassment. "This is stolen," he hissed, brandishing the badge like it was contraband. "No way a random thief like you earned this. That means you're impersonating a captain. That's a serious crime." Naomi almost couldn't believe the gall. Even now, Farnham refused to acknowledge reality. She glared at him. "Take me to the precinct," she said. "We'll sort this out in front of the entire station, if that's what you want." Gripping her arm, Farnham opened the rear door of his patrol car and shoved her inside. He couldn't see the steely smile forming on her lips. She knew that once they arrived at the 32nd precinct, Farnham's downfall would be swift and merciless. Yet, she could never have predicted the deeper conspiracies that were about to unfold, ones that would threaten not only her career, but her very life. When Farnham pulled up to the precinct, driving under the watchful gaze of security cameras, he was already sweating. He knew the place was Captain Carter's turf. The name was plastered on the door to her office, but he had gone too far to back down gracefully. So he marched inside, leading Naomi by the cuffs, meeting the bewildered stares of officers milling around. Some recognized Naomi immediately. Others were momentarily stunned to see her in cuffs. The desk sergeant, an older, no-nonsense woman named Marcia King, nearly dropped her coffee cup when she saw them. "Officer Farnham," she barked. "What the hell is going on?" Farnham jutted his chin forward defiantly. "Caught this suspect red-handed at a bodega. She was impersonating Captain Carter. I found this on her." He held up the badge and ID, which were indeed Captain Carter's, complete with her name and photo. Marcia's mouth hung open. "That is Captain Carter," she hollered, slamming her coffee onto the desk. "That's our precinct captain. Take those cuffs off her now." Chaos erupted. Officers who considered Naomi a mentor rushed over, outraged. Others who weren't sure what was going on looked on, wide-eyed. Farnham realized there was no way to salvage this, so he reluctantly removed the cuffs. Naomi's wrists were red and bruised, but the fiery determination in her eyes suggested her spirit was unbroken. She stared Farnham down as she rubbed her sore wrists. The entire precinct watched in silence as Captain Carter turned to Marcia. "Sergeant, gather everyone in the briefing room. Now." Her voice, though tight with anger, had an unwavering command. She pivoted to Farnham. "You will join us." Farnham swallowed hard. He was used to being the aggressor in these situations. But now, in front of everyone, he found himself cornered. He could feel the hostility radiating from every corner of the station. Whispers of his racism had circulated, but this was the first time he'd so blatantly displayed it within the precinct's walls. Less than 10 minutes later, the entire shift, plus a handful of off-duty officers who'd caught wind of the commotion, crowded the large briefing room. Naomi, regaining her composure, stood at the front, Farnham to her left, looking more and more uncomfortable by the second. She held up her identification card. "This is my badge. This is my precinct. I earned my rank through years of service, dedication, and unwavering commitment to the NYPD and this community." Officer Farnham chose to ignore multiple signs that I was who I said I was, and instead forcibly arrested me in public. The tension in the room was palpable. Officers stared in disbelief. Farnham tried to interrupt Captain. She held up her hand. The hush in the room was immediate. "Let me speak," Naomi snapped, voice ringing with the authority she rarely unleashed so fiercely. "I have spent my career trying to improve relationships between law enforcement and the people we are sworn to protect. I believe the uniform represents guardianship and accountability, not a license to discriminate or terrorize. Yet here we are, with an officer so blinded by prejudice that he humiliated his own commanding officer. If he can do this to me, think of what he could do to any civilian." A ripple of anger and agreement spread through the crowd. Some of the officers clenched their jaws. Even Farnham's supporters within the precinct realized the precariousness of the situation. Farnham tried to muster a defense. "Captain Carter, I was acting on the store owner's complaint. I believed it was legitimate. The suspect was described as a black female. You matched the description." Naomi's eyes blazed. "You never gave me the chance to identify myself properly. The store owner told you who I was, and you refused to listen." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "An investigation into your conduct will begin immediately." She turned to Marcia. "Sergeant King, please escort Officer Farnham to the conference room. Secure his duty belt and firearm. He's suspended from duty pending a formal review by Internal Affairs." A hush fell across the entire precinct. Farnham's face reddened as he looked from Naomi to Marcia to the throng of officers who watched him with disapproval, some with downright disgust. He looked ready to protest, but Marcia's firm grip on his arm sent a clear signal that he should keep his mouth shut. Silently, Farnham followed, his footsteps echoing through the corridor. Once Farnham was out of sight, the officers turned to Naomi, concern etched in their expressions. She stood tall, reminding them she was still in command. "I know tensions are high," she said softly, "but we have a job to do. Let's not let one man's foolishness destroy what we've built here. Go back to your duties and trust that we'll handle this situation with integrity." One by one, the officers dispersed, many offering quiet words of support. Despite her outward composure, Naomi felt a headache coming on. She had enough on her plate: departmental budgets, community outreach, new training schedules, and more. Now this fiasco with Farnham threatened to overshadow everything she'd worked for. She knew that the story would likely leak beyond the precinct walls. Gossip traveled fast, and soon the press might find out that a racist cop tried to arrest his own black female captain. The question was, would the NYPD handle this swiftly and justly, or would politics seep in? News of the incident spread through the city like wildfire, fueled by smartphone videos recorded by bystanders at the bodega. A clip showing Farnham manhandling Naomi had gone viral within hours. Media outlets scrambled to get statements from the NYPD. The mayor's office took notice, especially because the city had been trying to combat negative public perceptions of the police. Before Naomi could even catch her breath, she was summoned to one police plaza for a meeting with Commissioner Dermot Shea and other top brass. As she stepped into the grand lobby with its marble floors and the large NYPD seal on the wall, Naomi braced herself. She had never met with the commissioner under such fraught circumstances. A clerk guided her to a conference room where several individuals were already seated around a large oval table. Commissioner Shea, slender with graying hair, observed her entrance with a measured expression. Deputy Commissioner Susan Chang sat beside him, along with Chief of Department Kenneth Corey and an Internal Affairs Bureau Lieutenant named Michael D'Angelo, whose keen gaze pinned Naomi the moment she walked in. "Captain Carter," Commissioner Shea greeted, standing up and extending his hand. He attempted a reassuring smile, though Naomi could sense tension in the set of his shoulders. "Please, have a seat." Naomi complied, placing her hands neatly on the table. The formality of the setting made it feel like she was on trial rather than someone who had been wronged. "Commissioner," Shea cleared his throat. "First, let me say I'm sorry for what happened to you. Officer Farnham's behavior was unacceptable by any measure. We've initiated an investigation into his conduct." Naomi nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for the immediate acknowledgement, yet she also sensed they had brought her here for more than just apologies. Sure enough, Deputy Commissioner Chang cut in. "We're in the middle of a delicate situation. The media is already having a field day, and community activists are holding up Farnham's actions as proof that the NYPD hasn't changed. We can't afford to let this blow up any further. We need you on board with our approach to this matter." Naomi frowned. "With all due respect, I'm not entirely sure what that means." She had a sinking feeling that politics might overshadow genuine accountability. "If Farnham is found guilty of misconduct, I expect him to be disciplined accordingly. And frankly, I expect a public statement denouncing any and all racist behavior in our ranks. The community is tired of statements without action." Chief Corey leaned forward, lacing his fingers. "We hear you, Captain Carter, but let's be pragmatic. Farnham supporters, there are quite a few vocal ones in the union, are painting this as a misunderstanding. They claim Farnham didn't recognize you, that the entire incident was an unfortunate mistake. Some are even whispering that you used your authority to humiliate him. We have to tread carefully." The words stabbed at Naomi's sense of justice. "Used my authority to humiliate him," she repeated, incredulous. "He's the one who humiliated me, the store owner, and the entire community by acting on his racist assumptions." Commissioner Shea raised a placating hand. "Calm down, Captain. We're not saying we believe their narrative, but we have to be prepared for the political fallout. As it stands, Farnham is on administrative leave. Internal Affairs is investigating. I want you to cooperate with them fully, provide your statement and any evidence. We'll do our best to reach a fair outcome." Naomi forced herself to take a slow breath. "I will fully cooperate. But let me be clear. If Farnham's conduct is swept under the rug, if the outcome is a slap on the wrist, I can't stand by that. I took an oath to protect and serve. That includes protecting the community from officers who violate the trust placed in us." Lieutenant D'Angelo, representing Internal Affairs, spoke up for the first time. "We'd like to schedule a formal interview with you. We'll need the security footage from the bodega, any witness statements." "Are you comfortable handing over your personal cell phone for a digital forensic examination? Just in case there's any relevant evidence like text messages or photos from that day." Though the request was invasive, Naomi understood it was standard procedure in high-profile investigations. "I'll comply," she agreed. "I want justice done." Satisfied, Commissioner Shea nodded. "Thank you. We'll be in touch, Captain. Until then, please continue your normal duties at the 30 Twand precinct. We'd like as little disruption as possible to operations there." Naomi left One Police Plaza, feeling mentally exhausted. The gravity of it all weighed on her shoulders: public perception, departmental politics, her own dignity. She had no idea that Farnham had more up his sleeve, and that forces darker than mere prejudice were about to come roaring into her life. That night, Naomi was back at her apartment, a modest two-bedroom in Morningside Heights. trying to find a moment's peace. She sipped chamomile tea, hoping to settle her nerves while half watching the local evening news. As expected, the lead story was the viral clip. They replayed Farnham's aggressive takedown. Naomi switched off the TV, too tired to watch. She needed to clear her head. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. A text message from Detective Maria Alvarez, a longtime friend and colleague stationed in the 25th precinct. "We need to talk. Urgent." Naomi's heart skipped. Maria was not prone to dramatics. If she said it was urgent, it mattered. Naomi called her immediately. "I did some digging on Farnham," Maria said quietly, like she was worried someone might overhear. "He's not just some garden variety racist. He's tied to something bigger. There are rumors he's on the payroll of a local extremist group. I don't have hard proof yet, just chatter. But I'm telling you, watch your back." A chill skittered down Naomi's spine. She remembered Farnham's stubborn refusal to yield even when confronted with her identity. Could he be part of an extremist group? She pinched the bridge of her nose. "Any details on which group?" Maria's voice grew even softer. "They call themselves the Patriot Shield, a small but dangerous paramilitary-style outfit that's been trying to infiltrate law enforcement. Most recruits are radicalized online. Some have prior ties to supremacist ideologies. If Farnham is involved with them, it means he's not working alone. He might have connections or support from inside the NYPD or beyond." Naomi's fist tightened around her phone. "I'll be careful. Thank you for telling me, Maria. Please keep digging, but do it quietly. If Farnham does have allies, we don't know how far up it goes." She ended the call and stared out the window, a swirl of emotions pressing in on her. If Farnham was indeed linked to an extremist group, the bodega incident might have only been the tip of a very large iceberg. She reminded herself to keep a level head. Jumping to conclusions without hard evidence wouldn't help. Still, her instincts told her something foul was in the air. She decided she'd do her own discreet inquiries, starting at the 32nd precinct, to see if Farnham had any sympathizers who might have turned a blind eye to his behaviors. Chapter 4: Allies and Enemies. The next morning, Naomi arrived early at the precinct, determined to set the tone. Marcia King caught up with her right away. "Captain, Farnham has asked to speak with you in private," she said, a note of confusion in her voice. "He's waiting in interview room 2. Naomi narrowed her eyes. "He's on administrative leave. He shouldn't be here. How did he even get in? He's not armed. He insisted he just needed to talk with you. I had a rookie stand guard outside to ensure no trouble," Marcia explained. Naomi considered it. Confronting Farnham now, outside of official channels, was risky. But if he had something to say, perhaps it could shed light on his motives. She nodded curtly. "All right, I'll see what he wants." As Naomi headed to the interview room, officers gave her supportive glances in the hallway. Her reputation had soared after the humiliating arrest. Many recognized the injustice of what she'd endured. Reaching the door, she paused a moment. She pushed it open to find Farnham seated at a metal table, his stare locked on the wall in front of him. He looked tense, his posture rigid. She closed the door and stood across from him, arms folded. "You have something to say, Farnham," he shifted, glancing at her with a scowl. "I'm not some racist monster, no matter what you think," he spat. "But I'm telling you, there are people in this department who don't like you. They don't want you in a position of power." Naomi's heart pounded, so he knew he was being painted as a racist scapegoat, or perhaps he was deflecting blame onto shadowy conspirators. She decided to let him talk. "Who are these people?" she asked calmly. He snorted. "You don't know them. They keep their identities well hidden, but they're high up. They told me you were up to something crooked, that I should be on the lookout." He paused, swallowing as though uncertain whether to continue. "Look, I never believed you were an honest cop. That's why I confronted you at the store. I thought I'd catch you in the act." Naomi almost laughed in disbelief, but her anger flared again. You expect me to believe that some unknown bigwigs told you I was corrupt, and so you decided to accuse me of stealing? That's your justification. A twisted grimace crossed Farnham's face. I don't expect you to believe anything. I just wanted you to know you're not safe. Taking me down won't solve your problems. The people pulling the strings are unstoppable. He shoved his chair back and stood. A second later, the door opened. The rookie assigned as guard peeked in nervously. Farnham scoffed and stepped around the table, heading for the exit. I'll see myself out, he muttered, and you'll see soon enough that I'm not your biggest worry. Before Naomi could respond, Farnham strode into the hallway. She let him go, mind buzzing with questions. She couldn't tell if he was lying to save face or if indeed there was a larger conspiracy. If Farnham's words had a shred of truth, she needed to tread carefully. It was time to gather facts quietly. A few hours later, Naomi sat at her desk, poring over Farnham's personnel file. She'd requested the file officially, but it arrived with unusual speed, almost as though someone wanted her to see Farnham's questionable track record. The file was thick with prior complaints, excessive force, racial slurs, questionable stops. Yet Farnham had always skated by with minimal disciplinary action. The notes indicated lack of conclusive evidence or unreliable witness testimony. Over and over, Farnham had slipped through the cracks. It was a pattern Naomi recognized from systemic problems in policing, but one detail stood out. Farnham had been transferred repeatedly, from precinct to precinct, never staying long. She cross-referenced the times and locations of Farnham's transfers with rumors of extremist infiltration. There was a suspicious correlation with certain scandal-prone precincts, some of which had faced federal scrutiny for patterns of misconduct. Could Farnham have been placed strategically? A knock at her office door drew her from her thoughts. In walked Officer James Beckford, a young, eager patrolman who admired Naomi for her community-focused approach. Ma'am, you asked me to let you know if I heard anything unusual about Farnham or any officers acting suspiciously. Naomi nodded. Got something for me, Beckford? His cheeks reddened slightly. Not sure if it's important, but Farnham used to hang around with Officer Calvin Bates. The two were thick as thieves. After Farnham got suspended, I noticed Bates making phone calls outside near the dumpsters, late at night, like he didn't want anyone to overhear. I caught snippets of conversation. He mentioned your name, sounded like he was. Reporting on your movements? A prickle of alarm ran through Naomi. Good work, Beckford. Keep your eyes open, but don't confront Bates. I need you to be discreet. He bobbed his head. Yes, ma'am. After Beckford left, Naomi frowned at Farnham's personnel file again. She recalled that Bates had a relatively clean record, no major complaints, but perhaps he was more cunning. She decided to quietly investigate Bates, pulling up his file. Nothing too suspicious at first glance, but sometimes the evidence wasn't in official records. She realized she needed a deeper dive. Naomi picked up her phone and dialed Detective Maria Alvarez again, explaining the new lead. Calvin Bates, 30 Twand Precinct. Could you check any off-duty activities, phone records if possible, or see if he's associated with known extremist groups? On it, Maria replied. I'll get back to you. Over the next few days, the internal affairs investigation kept Naomi busy. She underwent formal interviews, provided her statements, and handed over the security footage from the bodega. The interviews were straightforward. There was no question Farnham had wrongfully arrested her. But the entire process felt like a performance for the public. She worried Farnham might slip away unscathed once again. Meanwhile, she continued her quiet inquiry into Farnham's background. Late one evening, Naomi stayed behind in her office to comb through old case files that Farnham had worked on, searching for patterns or potential co-conspirators. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and the precinct emptied out except for the night shift. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the door to her office swung open. Startled, Naomi looked up. It was Farnham, face taut with apprehension, sweat beading on his brow. Seeing him in the precinct after hours, especially while on leave, made her instantly cautious. She stood slowly, heart pounding. "You shouldn't be here." He closed the door behind him, glancing over his shoulder. "I need your help," he said in a hushed voice. Something's happened." Naomi braced herself. "What could you possibly expect me to do for you?" He approached her desk warily, as if worried about hidden cameras. "Look, you can hate me all you want, but I might have been wrong about you. The people who told me you were dirty, they've turned on me. They think I've become a liability. I'm getting threats." Naomi's anger flared. "So, you harass me, degrade me, then realize you messed with the wrong person, and now you're scared." She couldn't help the bitterness in her voice. Farnham swallowed thickly. "I know I deserve your contempt, but I'm telling you, these guys are dangerous. They have connections to the Patriots' shield. They offered me money to keep a watch on your activities, to sabotage you. Now, after the fiasco, they're throwing me under the bus." Naomi's mind reeled at the confirmation that Farnham was indeed working with a hate-driven group. She studied his face, searching for signs of duplicity. "Why come to me?" He stared at the floor. "Because you're the only one who can bring them down. If I go to internal affairs or the brass, they'll bury it. It goes higher than you think. There are captains, inspectors, even some union reps involved." Despite her revulsion for Farnham, Naomi realized this might be her chance to expose a far-reaching conspiracy. "Give me names," she demanded. Farnham hesitated, then rattled off a few. She recognized some known hard-liners with histories of questionable statements or misconduct. Others were surprising, including a deputy inspector in Brooklyn. Her stomach churned at the possibility of infiltration at higher levels. She scribbled down the names. "Why not go into witness protection?" she asked, her voice dripping with distrust. "Seems safer for you." Farnham barked a bitter laugh. "These people have connections in every corner of the department, even the feds. I won't be safe anywhere unless they're dismantled. I need your help to do that." A moment of heavy silence passed. Naomi loathed Farnham for what he'd done to her, but she also recognized that if there was a network of extremist officers, she had a duty to act. Gritting her teeth, she nodded. "All right, I'll look into what you've told me, but if you double-cross me, Farnham," he raised a hand, defeat in his eyes. "I get it, you can trust me or not, but I've got nowhere else to turn. Just be careful, Captain." And with that, Farnham slipped out of her office into the darkness of the corridor, leaving Naomi's mind spinning. She locked up soon afterward, feeling an uneasy weight in her chest. The more she dug, the more she realized she was kicking a hornet's nest. Still, she was determined to shine a light on the corruption, no matter the risks. Early the next morning, Naomi headed to a quiet diner near the precinct Tom's Restaurant on Broadway, a place she trusted not to be bugged or watched. She met Detective Maria Alvarez in a corner booth. They were both in plain clothes, leaning forward, voices low. "So Farnham finally confessed he was tied to the Patriots' shield," Maria said after Naomi recounted the previous night's encounter. Naomi nodded. "He gave me a few names. I need to verify them. If what he says is true, we have a major infiltration problem." Maria took out a small notepad. "I dug into Bates. He's squeaky clean on the record, but I found an off-the-books bar in Queens, where he and Farnham used to hang out, named Patriot's Den. Real subtle, right? The place is known to host unsavory gatherings. A couple of off-duty cops from various precincts frequent it." Naomi's pulse kicked up. "That might be where they coordinate. We need to confirm that link." Maria hesitated. "You realize we're treading into dangerous territory. If there really are high-level officers involved, they can make this disappear or turn us into scapegoats. We need more than just speculation before we blow the whistle." Naomi set her jaw. "So we gather evidence quietly. We document everything meticulously. Then we present it to someone we trust on the outside. Maybe a federal agency that's proven more neutral, like the FBI's Civil Rights Division. But let's not tip our hand until we have the smoking gun." Their food arrived: 2 plates of eggs and toast, but neither seemed particularly hungry. As they sipped their coffee, they sketched out a plan. Maria would talk to her contacts in other precincts, looking for rumors of extremist cliques. Naomi would keep a close eye on any suspicious activities at the 30-1. They'd maintain the pretense that Farnham's case was just a single officer misconduct investigation. The next step was risky. Naomi decided to pay a covert visit to Patriot's Den. She needed to see for herself if the extremist group was brazen enough to meet openly in a bar. To limit suspicion, she wore plain clothes, ripped jeans, a black leather jacket, a baseball cap pulled low, and took her personal car, not the precinct cruiser. The bar sat on a desolate stretch in Queens, a battered sign with chipped paint overhead. She parked across the street and observed for a while. 2 men lingered by the entrance, greeting arrivals. She noticed a handful of individuals sporting T-shirts with subtle symbols, American flags with black stripes, or a stylized Spartan helmet. Some had tattoos that looked suspiciously like runic designs linked to hate groups. Taking a steadying breath, Naomi crossed the street. As she approached, one of the men at the entrance gave her a once-over. He was tall, muscled, with a shaved head. "Not seen you around before," he said gruffly. She offered a tight grin. "I'm new in town. Heard this place is cop-friendly, so I thought I'd check it out." She deliberately didn't mention a rank or precinct, hoping to pass as one of the plainclothes who sometimes drifted through bars. The man eyed her suspiciously but stepped aside. Inside, the bar was dimly lit, with wooden tables and a long, scarred bar counter. A jukebox played classic rock. Naomi spotted a few clusters of men wearing jackets with patches that hinted at their ideology: eagles clutching rifles. Slogans like "Don't tread on me." She slid onto a stool at the bar and ordered a whiskey, trying to appear casual. As she pretended to scroll on her phone, she eavesdropped on conversations behind her. One group spoke about defending the Constitution and taking America back, peppered with references to liberal infiltration. Another set laughed about some protesters who got what they deserved. At the far end of the bar, she noticed a face she recognized: Officer Calvin Bates. He was in deep conversation with a bald man who exuded an air of authority. Naomi carefully angled her phone camera, capturing a few discreet photos. She strained to hear snippets of Bates's words: "Farnham messed up, and the captain's onto him." Her heart raced. She tried to maintain a neutral expression, sipping her drink. Then the bald man clapped Bates on the shoulder and rose. He strode toward the restrooms, passing behind Naomi. She caught a glimpse of a patch on his jacket, Patriot's shield, with an American eagle clutching crossed swords. She typed a quick note on her phone: "Patriot shield patch spotted on bald man W. Bates." Her pulse hammered. This was real, an actual base of operations for the extremist group, openly socializing with law enforcement members. The question was how deep their infiltration went and what they planned to do next. She glanced at her watch. She'd spent enough time here for a first reconnaissance. She decided it would be wiser to leave before anyone grew suspicious of her eavesdropping. She settled her tab, downed the last of the whiskey in a single gulp, and headed out. As she left, her eyes flicked to Bates, who was still engrossed in conversation. He didn't appear to notice her. Relief swelled inside her as she stepped into the fresh night air. She made her way to her car with steady, measured steps, forcing herself not to rush. Once inside, she let out a shaky breath. That was too close for comfort. She realized the stakes had just escalated. Patriot Shield wasn't just a rumor, it was an organized group, brazenly recruiting and socializing. They had cops in their ranks. And from the anger in Farnham's eyes and the fervor of the bar crowd, Naomi knew they might already be planning something bigger, something that threatened not just her career, but the very fabric of trust between police and community. The next morning, Naomi called Maria again, filling her in on what she had seen. Maria was alarmed. "This is bigger than we thought. We need to be extremely careful. If they realize you're onto them, they might come after you directly." Naomi exhaled slowly. "I know. We have to work fast but quietly. I'll share the pictures I got. Maybe we can identify the bald man with the Patriot's shield patch. He seemed like a leader." They arranged to meet later that day to transfer the evidence securely. Maria had contacts in the FBI's local field office, specifically in the Civil Rights Division, but they didn't want to approach them yet without more substantial proof of wrongdoing, such as explicit conspiracies or hate crimes. Back at the 31 precinct, Naomi tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy. She reviewed daily briefings, assigned patrol routes, and checked in with the new recruits. However, she couldn't shake the sense that eyes were on her. She noticed Officer Calvin Bates in the hallway, exchanging a knowing glance with another cop she didn't recognize. The moment Naomi looked their way, they went silent and split up. Then, just after lunch, Marsha King knocked on Naomi's office door. The look on her face was grim. "Captain, we just got an emergency call. Some guys are causing a major disturbance at the bodega on Malcolm X Boulevard, the same one where Farnham arrested you. They're wearing camouflage gear, claiming they're citizen enforcers. They're brandishing weapons." Naomi's blood ran cold. "Are they holding hostages?" Marsha nodded. "The store owner and a few customers are inside. They threatened to shoot if the police intervene. They specifically requested to talk to the black female captain who's destroying good cops." "That's you, Captain Carter." Naomi's jaw clenched. This was clearly an orchestrated stunt, likely by Patriot Shield or one of their affiliates, trying to lure her into a dangerous scenario. "Get ESU Emergency Service Unit on standby and lock down the area," she ordered. "I'll head there with a negotiation team." Marsha gave her a concerned look. "Captain, are you sure you should go personally? It seems like a trap." Naomi's eyes steeled with resolve. "I won't let innocent people get hurt, because these terrorists have a personal vendetta. I'll approach carefully with the ESU, keep snipers on the perimeter if needed." The drive to the bodega was tense. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles whitening. She mentally rehearsed her negotiation tactics: de-escalation, active listening, maintaining authority but offering a peaceful resolution. When she arrived, the area was swarming with police cars, lights flashing. A perimeter had been set up. Residents peeked from windows as officers held them back from the danger zone. Naomi spotted the ESU van and approached the officer in charge, Lieutenant Frank Donovan. He briefed her. "We have 4 armed suspects inside. Civilians are huddled behind the counter. The suspects are demanding to speak to you specifically. They said to come unarmed or they'll start shooting hostages." Naomi's stomach twisted. A direct approach, unarmed, was suicidal. Yet she couldn't ignore their demands entirely. She signaled the tactical team to get into position around the building. "I'll walk to the door. Keep your scopes on the suspects if they show themselves, but do not fire unless they threaten a hostage." She steeled herself, removing her sidearm and handing it to a nearby officer, though she kept a concealed backup strapped to her ankle, an old habit. Then, with a bulletproof vest hidden under her jacket, she approached the store's entrance, hands raised. The tension in the air was suffocating. Through the glass doors, she saw 3 men in camouflage. One pointed a rifle at a hostage, while another aimed at the door. The third was out of sight, presumably watching from an angle. The man at the door jerked it open, quickly stepping back inside and keeping the muzzle on Naomi. "Don't come any closer," he snarled. "You're Captain Carter." Naomi nodded, heart pounding. "That's me." "Let's talk," the man sneered. "You think you can lock up good cops like Farnham and get away with it? We're here to show you that patriots won't stand for your tyranny." Naomi forced her voice to remain steady. "No one's locking up good cops. We're trying to weed out corruption. Let's not involve innocent people in this." They barked curses and epithets at her. Adrenaline surged through Naomi, but she kept a calm facade. "You don't want to hurt anyone. We can discuss this. Let the hostages go and I'll stay." One of them, a burly man with a half-concealed skull tattoo, laughed harshly. "Nice try, Captain. You step inside, then we'll talk about letting the hostages go." Naomi's heart hammered. If she stepped inside, she'd be at their mercy. ESU wouldn't risk a stray shot that might hit a hostage. She needed to buy time and keep them engaged. "I'll come in, but only if you let the hostages leave, all of them." Skull Tattoo Man seemed to consider it. "Half first," he said, as if it was a business negotiation. "2 people, then you come in." Naomi nodded, exhaling shakily. "All right, release 2 of them and I'll enter." She stepped aside from the doorway. Moments later, 2 frightened customers stumbled out, sobbing, thanking Naomi under their breath. She looked them over quickly to ensure they weren't hurt, then gently urged them toward the medics waiting behind the police line. Now it was her turn. Her heart hammered as she stepped into the store. The men quickly shut the door behind her, one brandishing a pistol. Another hovered near the hostages, still pinned behind the counter. They wore grim expressions, eyes wide with terror. Naomi raised her hands to show she was unarmed, though she prayed she wouldn't need the small backup strapped to her ankle. Skull Tattoo Man pressed his muzzle into Naomi's side. "Kneel." She clenched her jaw but complied, lowering to one knee. The old store's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The stench of stale coffee and fear filled the air. She noticed the store owner, cowering among the remaining hostages, tears in his eyes as he recognized her. The man with the rifle kept shifting, as though trying to find an angle to see if snipers were outside. "We want Farnham reinstated," he growled. "We want you to admit what you did to him was a setup. You framed him for being racist." Naomi's pulse throbbed. "He wasn't framed," she said firmly, though she knew she had to tread carefully to keep them talking without enraging them. "Farnham is under investigation because of his actions. If he's innocent, that will come out." The men cursed again, slamming the butt of a rifle onto the floor. "Listen, lady, we're not here for a debate," barked the pistol wielder. "We want guarantees that Farnham's record is wiped clean and that you publicly apologize to him. If not, your beloved community is going to see a real war." Naomi's mind raced. They were making demands no one could honor. Even if she somehow forced Farnham's reinstatement, the NYPD or city officials wouldn't capitulate to domestic terrorists. She needed to stall until ESU found a strategic advantage. Suddenly from outside, a thunderous voice bellowed through a megaphone, telling them to lay down arms and come out peacefully. The gunman flinched. In that split second, Naomi seized the moment, using her training. Her right hand shot to her ankle, drawing her concealed backup weapon. She pivoted, slamming her forearm into the rifleman's chest. The muzzle jerked away from the hostages. A gunshot echoed, shattering a row of soda bottles, spraying sugary liquid across the aisle. Pandemonium erupted. Skull Tattoo Man cursed, swinging his rifle back toward Naomi. She fired her small pistol once, hitting his shoulder. He howled in pain, dropping the weapon. Another suspect lunged, pistol aimed. Naomi threw herself to the side, rolling behind a display rack of canned goods. Bullets thudded into the walls. The frightened hostages shrieked. Outside, ESU heard the shots and rushed in, smashing the glass doors. The room exploded in chaos. The suspects fired at the entering officers, who returned controlled bursts. Naomi crawled toward the hostages, shouting for them to stay down. A final volley of gunfire rang out. Then, seconds later, a hush descended, broken only by the desperate sobs of the store owner and the acrid tang of gun smoke. ESU officers swarmed the store, quickly disarming the wounded suspects. Naomi pushed herself to her feet, feeling a stinging pain in her side where a bullet had grazed her ribs. Blood trickled down her arm from shattered glass. But she was alive, and the hostages were safe. Paramedics rushed in. They began tending to the suspects. First, NYPD protocol was to secure and then medically assess all parties. Naomi stumbled, catching herself on a shelf. Lieutenant Donovan approached her, eyes wide with concern. "Captain, you all right?" She nodded, breath ragged. "Just a graze, I think. Check on the store owner and the hostages." He nodded and barked orders. As Naomi was guided outside by a paramedic, she realized how close she'd come to dying. The suspects had specifically targeted her. And if Farnham's confession was any indication, these men might only be a fraction of the Patriots' Shield infiltration. She wondered how far their network extended and whether they'd stop at nothing to silence her. In the days that followed the bodega standoff, the media hailed Naomi as a hero. She downplayed it, insisting it was a team effort, but the public and the mayor's office lauded her quick thinking. Meanwhile, the Patriots' Shield's brazen attack incited outrage, intensifying calls for a crackdown on extremist infiltration within the NYPD. Farnham, surprisingly, reached out again, this time through an intermediary, a lawyer, who claimed Farnham wanted to cooperate in exchange for protection. "My client can identify multiple officers and higher-ups involved in Patriot's Shield," the lawyer said during a brief meeting with Naomi and Internal Affairs. "He asks for immunity from prosecution, or at least leniency." Naomi glanced at the Internal Affairs lieutenant. They exchanged a skeptical look. Farnham was hardly an innocent bystander. But if he could truly expose a widespread conspiracy, maybe it was worth considering a deal. The lieutenant sighed. "We'll review the information. No guarantees." Then came a breakthrough. Maria Alvarez managed to identify the bald man with the Patriots' Shield patch. He was Gary Tillman, a former Marine and the rumored leader of the group's local cell. Tillman had ties to a retired NYPD deputy inspector who was forced out years ago for disciplinary reasons. Documents revealed that Farnham had been in contact with Tillman multiple times, presumably passing insider information about the department's activities. These revelations pushed Internal Affairs and the FBI's Civil Rights Division to launch a deeper probe. Warrants were obtained for Patriot's Den. Several cops known to frequent the bar were brought in for questioning. Gradually, a sinister picture emerged. The extremist group had methodically recruited officers disillusioned by departmental reforms or attracted to racist ideologies. They aimed to undermine community policing efforts and instigate racial tensions to justify their rhetoric. Farnham's arrest of Naomi was partly a show to discredit her, to create a viral moment that would spark anger and possibly justify a violent response. Their plan backfired when Farnham was suspended and Naomi refused to be intimidated. With each new piece of evidence, Naomi felt both relief and dread. Relief that the threat was being exposed, dread that so many sworn officers were involved. She discovered that even some union representatives had turned a blind eye to Farnham's repeated misconduct, secretly aligning with the extremist agenda. The Hydra was massive, each head revealing another, but each new revelation also meant the walls were closing in on Patriot's Shield. After weeks of investigations, arrests, and mounting evidence, The FBI, in coordination with Internal Affairs, planned a series of raids to capture key Patriots Shield members, including Gary Tillman. Naomi was on the sidelines for safety reasons, but she insisted on monitoring the operation. She stood in a command van near Patriot's Den, listening to real-time communications. Agents in tactical gear moved in swiftly, storming the bar. Tillman and several of his cohorts were caught off guard, though a brief shootout erupted. No FBI agents were hurt, but 2 Patriots Shield members were critically wounded. Within half an hour, the scene was secure. The leaders of the extremist cell were in custody. Simultaneous raids across the city netted multiple corrupt officers, including Calvin Bates and a few others from the 32nd precinct. Naomi closed her eyes, releasing a breath she felt she'd been holding for months. The Hydra's heads were severed, though she knew a hateful ideology could never be entirely eradicated. Still, a significant victory had been won. Officer Jack Farnham's fate took a dramatic turn. In exchange for testifying against Tillman and others, he was given a plea deal, reduced charges, loss of his badge, and probation instead of jail time. Naomi could never fully forgive him, but she recognized the greater good was served. Farnham's testimony was pivotal in dismantling Patriot's Shield, yet Farnham's personal life took a nosedive. The wife he claimed to be protecting left him, disgusted by his actions. He was ostracized from most law enforcement circles, labeled a disgrace by those who once championed him. He struggled to find stable employment, and the financial troubles he tried to fix by accepting Patriots. Shield's bribes only deepened. On a rainy afternoon, Naomi visited Farnham in a dingy coffee shop near the courthouse. It was the final time she would speak to him. He looked haggard, a shadow of the arrogant man who had humiliated her in that bodega months ago. "I guess this is karma," he said, voice hollow. Naomi studied him for a moment, recalling the day he had arrested her without cause. She recalled the sting of his racist assumptions, the disregard for her dignity and authority. But she also saw a man broken by his choices. She decided not to twist the knife further. "You made your bed, Farnham," she said quietly, "but at least you did something decent in the end. Maybe that can be your first step towards some kind of redemption." He gave a mirthless laugh, glancing out the window. "I doubt there's redemption for me, but thanks anyway." With that, Naomi left, stepping back out into the rain. She felt no triumph, only a weighted sense of resolution. With Patriots Shield's ringleaders behind bars, the NYPD was forced to reckon with the realities of extremist infiltration. Commissioner Shea announced an internal overhaul, including stricter background checks, enhanced bias training, and a special task force dedicated to identifying signs of domestic extremism within the ranks. It was far from a perfect solution, but it was a start. Naomi returned to her daily work at the 32nd precinct. In the aftermath of the entire ordeal, she was promoted to deputy inspector, an acknowledgement of her bravery and leadership under extraordinary pressure. She took the new role with humility, determined to continue pushing for reforms that would foster genuine trust between police and community. The bodega reopened after repairs, and the store owner invited Naomi to a small celebration. On that day, uniformed officers from the 32nd joined local residents in a modest block party. Children darted between tables of food, neighbors chatted with cops they once eyed with suspicion, and music played from a portable speaker. Naomi greeted the store owner with a wide smile. She even got behind the counter for a moment, passing out treats and joking that she'd briefly traded her badge for a bodega apron. As she scanned the gathering, she saw a diverse mix of uniforms and civilian clothes. They were dancing, laughing, forging bonds in a neighborhood that had known too much tension. It was a small but meaningful glimpse of what policing should strive for: unity and respect. That evening, Naomi lingered as the sun set, orange and pink hues lighting the streets. Some teenagers in the neighborhood recognized her, cheering for the hero captain. She blushed, insisting she was just doing her job. Deep down, she understood that the real heroism was in every daily step taken to heal old wounds, prevent future harm, and maintain moral courage. In the end, the racist cop who tried to break her had been brought low. The extremist network that sought to destabilize her precinct had been shattered, and Naomi Carter, newly minted deputy inspector, stood as a testament that no matter the depths of hatred and corruption, courage, community, and relentless pursuit of justice would triumph. Thank you for joining us on this intense and remarkable journey. We've witnessed how a single moment of hate-fueled misconduct can unravel a web of deeper corruption, and how one woman's determination can expose an entire network of wrongdoing. Captain Naomi Carter's story reminds us that resilience, compassion, and a commitment to truth can overcome even the fiercest challenges. It also proves that karma will inevitably catch up with those who choose hate over justice. If this powerful narrative resonated with you, be sure to hit the like button, share this video to spread awareness, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales of heroism and accountability. Until next time, stay vigilant and remember, justice always prevails.